Welcome. This is Mental Health Matters. In this installment, I will be discussing some of the causes and effects of stigma surrounding mental disorders, and I'll also be talking about some important things that we can do to reduce and eliminate this stigma. Stigma is a set of negative and unfair beliefs that a society or a group have about something that sets a person apart from others. Many people hold negative attitudes and stereotypes towards people with mental disorders, often referring to them as crazy or weird. The stigma held by some people that people with mental illness are especially violent or dangerous can result in those with disorders being marginalized or ostracized from certain segments of society. There are several ways that people with mental disorders may deal with the stigma of their condition. Some may be able to successfully hide their condition. For example, a person who might be struggling with depression may be able to fake being happy around others, or someone with crippling anxiety may be able to avoid the thing that triggers their anxiety. However, this can be unhealthy and lead to a loss of self-respect or to a feeling that no one understands them. Others may deal with the stigma by internalizing it and beginning to believe that they are in fact crazy, helpless, flawed, or broken. This can bring about feelings of loneliness and isolation, which can have a negative impact on their overall well-being. Still others might try to cope with the stigma by accepting that they don't have the power to change people's perceptions of them and of their condition, even though they themselves do not accept the labels that society might put upon them. This can be somewhat helpful, but it can also be a struggle when someone knows that other people don't really understand what it is that they're going through. Yet another way that some people respond to the stigma of mental disorders is by resisting it and fighting back against it. This can be empowering and it can be productive, but fighting against people's mistaken perceptions can also be exhausting, and this also might negatively affect their mental health and well-being. The stigma of mental problems may affect many important aspects of a person's life, including their employment, their marriage prospects, and the expectations of their family and community. People who are stigmatized often feel powerless to take charge of their mental health. The shame and the secrecy associated with stigma often means that people in need of mental health treatment don't get it. This can become an even bigger problem since untreated mental illness brings with it a higher risk for a host of other problems, such as disability, unemployment, substance abuse, and even suicide. When we acknowledge mental health problems, when we talk about them openly and help those in need obtain the necessary treatment for their conditions, we give them a tremendous gift by letting them know that they're not alone in their struggles and that they don't have to be marginalized to a life that's anything less than meaningful and fulfilling. So what can you do about stigma? If you know of someone who is struggling with the stigma of their mental health or who has a family or friend who is, be supportive and accepting. You don't have to have a solution to their problem. Let them know that you may not fully understand what it is they're going through, but you accept them as they are and don't think anything less of them because of their challenges. Validate the difficulty of their situation and be sure never to minimize it. The root of stigma is in the attitudes and behaviors of the broader community. So we must work to change that by becoming proactive about educating ourselves about these conditions. Talk openly with your children about mental health issues and teach them to be compassionate towards those who suffer. Poking fun at or teasing people with mental disorders is never acceptable. Use appropriate terminology when talking to or about people with mental disorders. See people as people, not as defined by their problems. People are not bipolar or schizophrenic or drug addicts. They are people with bipolar disorder or with schizophrenia or people who struggle with addiction. Seeking out ways to have more positive contact with people who suffer from mental disorders will help us all increase our empathy, our compassion, and our support for those who are suffering. Thank you for watching today and for doing your part to fight the stigma of mental health problems. Stay tuned for future installments of Mental Health Matters for accurate and reliable information about a broad range of mental health topics. Your feedback, questions, and comments are more than welcome. Please visit drdbrownstein.com, facebook.com/drdbrownstein, or at drdbrownstein on Twitter. Remember, mental health matters.